video going at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, you're on. Oh, today's date,
Today's the 10th of
March.
March, 1997. It's approximately 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Kansas City, Missouri, 822 West 58th Street. Kansas City.
So you were talking about the sedimentation test, so why don't you go ahead and
Oh.
talk about that?
It was when Mary Ellen was about 3 or 4 years old. They needed what they called a sedimentation test on her blood, and it involved taking blood, and you can imagine how terrified a tiny child would be.
Especially me, I'm a real whiner.
Yeah, not really though, I don't think,
Oh, well, that's good.
but your mother, I guess, was taking care of a younger child at that time, and it was pretty awful for me and that much worse for her, I guess. But each of us survived it, so.
Well, I had an experience like that with Ingrid and Christopher.
Did you, both of them?
Yes, I took them both at once for a checkup, and they took blood from both of them.
Oh
And
my gosh.
They did Christopher first, and he was a year old, and he started screaming, and that got Ingrid started, and they were both howling simultaneously. It was really funny.
Oh boy.
But it didn't last very long. They came out of it.
That was when you were up at, where?
No, this was in Richmond.
In Richmond. What was that university you went to in?
Oh, Hofstra on Long Island.
Yeah. That's where you lived when Christopher was baptized.
That's right.
And I came up. Mother couldn't come up for some reason. I don't remember why.
I guess maybe she was a little bit sick.
Maybe she
I
was
don't know.
expecting somebody,
Oh, well, that
a
could
new
be.
baby or something.
I don't, well, no, because, well, maybe
You can help them out if you.
that's right, you would have been having Celeste. Celeste and Chris are just a couple of weeks apart or something. So, maybe that was it. Okay, what else?
Hofstra. It was about the same time. I remember Ingrid was about 2 years old. Maybe it was just after you went back to Richmond. Mother and I came down and we went to a restaurant, and Ingrid showed us how strong her lungs are. I don't know if you remember that or not, but it was got pretty loud. She didn't care to be there for whatever reason.
Well, I remember one time in Michigan when Mother met us in East Lansing, and we went to dinner with Ingrid, and she was a year and a half or 2 years old, and someone coming out of the restaurant really knocked her down with the door.
Oh,
And Ingrid, not Mother, and she was pretty upset about that. So,
well, this was, I couldn't figure out what she was upset about, but she sure was unhappy. And now she's a perfect lady. Wherever she wants to be, or wherever she is, that's where she wants to be. As you might guess from her peregrinations
that's right, yes.
in this last year.
Somebody at VCU in the International Programs Office where Ingrid worked last summer told me that Ingrid was really a good person for going abroad. She said a lot of these students are really unimpressive who are doing a semester abroad, but that Ingrid was polite. And this is sort of astonishing, evidently.
Mhm.
So, not typical.
Well, to get back to where all this started is when your mother and I were married, July the 22nd, 1942. 1972, just after I was commissioned second lieutenant in the U.S. Army Air Corps. And we were married in Florence, South Carolina. An odd thing did happen in reference to the fact that we were married there. We were married at St. Anthony's Church, and Father Fagan was the priest there. Years later, on a layover in Dublin, I was talking with the manager of the Burlington Hotel, and he told me he had a brother who was a priest in the States.
Yes?
And then it developed and developed, and finally it was no other way to find but that he was a priest that married your mother and me.
Oh, that's,
This was 15 years later, maybe longer,
and where was it that you met his brother?
in Dublin.
Ah,
And he was a manager of the Burlington Hotel where the crews
uh-huh.
stayed at that time. We had layovers in Ireland. Be nice if we still did.
Yes, I think so.
I remember you as a Comsi child, about 3 or 4 years old. We were in Jefferson Davis Park on the Mississippi River waterfront in Memphis, and you were chasing pigeons.
Oh, I think there's some film of that.
There may be, yeah, and I never will forget how you lifted your feet up like a Lipizzan horse does
Oh, really?
when you were running, yeah.
Christopher used to throw his head from side to side when he was running,
Oh, I don't,
so he
Don't
doesn't do
remember
that
that.
anymore. I think he's,
it's a wasted motion, I guess.
exactly, exactly.
Efficiency.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I'm sorry, I
You,
got it.
no, wait a minute, I have something I can ask you.
All right.
I wanted to ask you about the airline strike in the 50s. There were
Yeah.
probably more than one of them. But I know Ingrid will be real interested in this. And I mean, how long did it last? And
Just a few weeks. I think the president finally appointed an arbitration panel, which he could have done before the strike, and frankly, most of us were hoping he would. But he finally did, and that took care of it.
what year was that?
52, as you said, is as good a guess as any,
Mhm.
as good a guess as I can make now.
I remember, and I don't know if this is right or not, that at one point during this strike, you got a job operating a jackhammer,
Yeah,
and you
Yeah.
lasted a day. Is that right?
well, I think maybe the strike ended, thank the Lord.
Yeah.
They said, whatever you do, don't put that thing up against your stomach. And I found out that was a real bad idea to do that. But no permanent damage, I guess, could have been done, or I'd still be feeling the effects of it. We were guests of the laborers' union, is what we were, as jackhammer operators. And we went and we did work right along with them, as fast as they did it, I think, and maybe a little better. But I'm not certain. Maybe they did it better. But what we were tearing down was a Standard Oil refinery that was made of reinforced concrete.
Oh.
And man, I'll tell you, that was one job, getting that. They had a lot of R-bars, rebar, the reinforcing bars.
Oh, gosh.
And they had some I-beams, vertically as well as horizontally. And getting the concrete out of them was a real pain in the neck. And I've always felt that covering my face. Cue me.
Oh, you were talking about the reinforced
The
I-beams
rebars,
and-
yeah. It took a real pressure and control on this jackhammer to dig out the concrete from the eye bars.
Well,
Did
it
you
was-
hear that?
It was really in there, right?
Huh?
It was really in there.
Yeah. But anyway, as we said, I think we did it only a few days. I can remember though getting in the tub after we came home, and it's a wonder we didn't stop up the drain with the cement dust and everything. Oh, we had goggles, but we also had what was almost black spectacles like a raccoon
Oh, with rubber
around
to make it
yeah.
tight, yeah. Yeah, I always thought that was pretty interesting that you did that at all, ever.
Yeah, well, most of us agreed that it was the only honest work we ever did in our lives. Because before we were in the service, and then we worked for TWA, and this jackhammer business was the only real labor we did.
Was that the beginning, sort of the pilots union, the ALPA?
No, the pilots union was started by a man named Dave Menke, who turned out to be the first president, and he was a United Airlines captain, and they were threatening to fire anybody that tried to start a union or that joined one that was already in. Yeah, we were, well, I've often said that there's only two things I'd rather have been than an airline pilot, which I was, and that was a doctor or a teacher. And
When was
I
that?
guess with the same effort, I could have been either one, but I went with the flow, so to speak, on the pilot thing. A friend of mine, Charlie Kuhn, who lived next door to where your mother lived in Memphis,
Mhm.
was a good friend of mine and a couple of years older than I. And he joined the cadets and unfortunately he washed out. But he's the one that told me if I didn't want to be a foot soldier, if the thing to do was to join the cadet program, flying cadet program.
Ah,
And I had to take a mental examination, and I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure that I almost aced every part of it. I studied physics on my own. I never had it in school, but I went through a high school physics book, and I think I absorbed almost all of it.
yeah.
And
You had 1 year of college, right?
what,
Did you have 1
about
year?
1 year of college at Siena College in Memphis.
Mhm.
It's, I don't remember, it was St. Agnes when I started there, and they changed
Oh.
it to Siena later, from St. Catherine of Siena. John, give me a lead.
It's kind of a slap in the face to St. Agnes, isn't it?
To change it to Siena
Let's
College? Was it
Yeah.
called St. Agnes or St. Catherine?
St. Agnes.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually it was a girls' academy, and it's expanded into giving some college courses, and finally it stayed an academy, but it was, I think, Siena. Your mother would correct me on that, but
That's what I had always heard.
yeah, well, and I enjoyed it very much, and we had plays. I remember I played Mike, a policeman, and one of them was called Teetoper Tavern. And it had to do with, it was a typical Samuel French.
Mm-hmm.
Incidentally, I had a box of them, those plays upstairs. I don't know whether I gave it to the guy over at
Oh,
Hubble.
Start.
Jerry Stark?
Oh, yeah, I might have given them to Jerry Stark. He was the director of plays and dramatics over at Rockhurst High School. He's still in town, and he had some parts in, who's the Hollywood director, that Kansas City native, that
Oh,
Short.
Robert Altman.
Robert Altman.
So he's in,
Shortcuts.
oh, in Shortcuts, yeah.
He did Shortcuts.
Ah,
And Jerry had some parts in some of his plays, I think. At least one, I'm sure.
oh,
And he did some parts in other men's plays. He might have had a part in the
Kansas City?
Mr. and Mrs. Bridge
Oh, yes.
duet
Mm-hmm.
that Joan Woodward and Paul Newman were in. I always thought she was a great actress.
Yeah, I've read a little bit about her, and I think she's really a great woman too, because
Yeah,
she focused on her family as they were growing up, because she thought that somebody needed to be really paying attention. And they've done a lot of social welfare things too.
Tell us about your first flight to England.
I don't remember.
He doesn't remember.
I heard.
My first flight was, that was in the service.
Right.
I went to, we flew flew C-47s from Mount Clemens, Michigan, Selfridge Field. It was named for the first casualty of the aviation in the Signal Corps is what it was at that time. Am I wrong on that? John, do you remember?
I don't know.
I know that the Signal Corps was the parent organization for some of the military branches. Let's not put that down as gospel. Maybe sometime later on in this thing we can correct it if it needs correcting. Okay,
Let's talk about family. How about,
Oh, yeah,
you know, what was it like growing up?
you don't want to know from me. But I was telling Stephen last night that sometimes when we were small, probably before there were 5 of us, you would gather us on your double bed and turn out the lights and light a candle and tell us stories.
yeah, I used to do that under the table too, with a sheet over the table.
Yeah, I told you.
Candles.
We used to lie under the dining room table. And sometimes we'd listen to music, like the music
Yeah.
box record. You
Yeah.
liked that. That was good for under the table listening. Do you remember any of the stories you told us or what they were like?
No, I don't.
Neither do I.
Yeah, but it was great sport, I thought.
It was, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Something else I remember is that sometimes if we were playing in the backyard, you'd come out and throw a ball with us for a while. And whenever you went back in the house, I always felt like the sun went down or something.
Oh boy. I'm glad that you do remember that fondly. And I'll add a jarring note. Remember when we put something on your plate you didn't like,
Mm-hmm.
what I told you?
Eat it and don't you dare gag.
Yeah,
We drew the line at okra. Boiled okra, particularly.
I never could understand later after you kids were grown up why it wasn't. I thought it was imperative that you eat something
Right.
that was surely gonna make you sick.
Well, yes.
And it's not funny, I know that, even from perspective it isn't.
Well, yes, I guess it's unfortunate, but you did some good things too. Lots of them, as
Yeah.
far as I'm concerned.
I haven't mentioned it very often, but Mother and I went on a trip to Europe, and Leela, the colored lady that was a wonderful companion and kept the house in order and everything, stayed with you. And you were more or less in charge anyway, but the other guys started a
Food fight. It was a Jello fight.
a Jello fight. And when we came back from Europe, it was all over the walls and all over the ceiling.
It was still there?
And I don't think it is it?
No, I meant, I didn't realize that we didn't just pick it all up. I mean,
Well, actually, I don't think you could have. I don't think you could have got high enough to, no, it wasn't that there was so much of it. It's that it was high up,
oh, right,
you know, flipping.
off the spoons, right. They were chasing each other through the house with Jello on
Oh
spoons.
my gosh.
Yes.
That was before this rug, I guess.
Yes, it was before this rug. But I remember when you got the wall-to-wall carpet before this rug, and after it was first put in, they wouldn't let us walk on it for 3 weeks or more. No, stay out of the living room. It's new carpet.
Yeah. Maybe later we can get a shot of that curled up rug underneath the table there. The reason that happens that way and this line here is crooked is because the pile on the nap on the underlayment there, the wall-to-wall carpet is making this walk around on the floor.
Oh,
Yeah, it's
well,
no defect with the Karastan carpet. Incidentally, we bought that over in Somerset Heights, near Corinth Meadows, at an estate sale. A lady had had it made for her apartment and then was moving into a smaller one. This is 18 by 11 and a half, or maybe 12, I don't know.
wow, yeah, it's a big carpet.
And it's a beautiful carpet. I
Mm-hmm.
always have been pleased at walking on it or seeing it.
You don't see this shade of light blue-green or blue in it, in Orientals much, I don't think.
And what?
Orientals?
Yeah. Oh,
Well, I remember a story from when I was a child. It's the first thing I can really remember. And I was out in the backyard helping Mother hang up clothes, handing her the clothespins, and the clothes from the laundry basket. And I was 3 or 4, and I was worried about going to school. And I thought, if I make myself indispensable, they won't send me to school. When I was in grade school, I started worrying in about 7th grade about high school and how I would ever find different rooms by the numbers partly because I assumed that the numbering system was totally random and that I'd just have to memorize them. And didn't make sense.
where was this, at
Loretto?
Visitation still, or?
No, this was at Loretto. I went to St. Elizabeth's in 3rd grade, but the rest of the time I went to Loretto. And I didn't go to kindergarten at all. I just went into 1st grade. In
Mhm.
fact, I think I went into the wrong classroom the first day of school, about 3rd grade. I went into the third grade classroom, and they were asking religion questions, and I knew all the answers. But then I found out I was in the wrong room.
When time came for Ann to go to school, Mother was teaching at Loretto and taught there for several years later. And Ann was in kindergarten, I guess. Did they let her skip kindergarten, or did she skip
I don't know exactly
only first grade?
where she skipped, but
It,
she would know.
Anyway, she was about to jump down John's throat, and they decided John could handle the next grade too, so they had him jump a grade too. And as far as I know, he had no great
They were
problems.
wrong.
He's been struggling to catch up ever since.
Is that right?
Yeah, mainly because of handwriting. When I got to the third grade, they were already writing in cursive, and I was still printing in the second grade.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear.
I was still printing in the second grade,
Oh, handwriting.
and they moved me into the third grade where they were doing cursive writing already.
Oh,
It's
man.
been a drag ever since.
Well, your writing is all perfectly legible now.
It is,
Well,
yeah.
No
Looks more
problem.
like Mother's.
Huh?
It looks a lot like Mother's.
Yes, it does.
Well, if
Mother
it
being
does,
my
that's
third grade
perfect.
teacher, having taught me how to.
Oh, that's
right.
right. She was your teacher. Yeah, I've
Yeah.
always thought that was a bad idea.
I remember Ann was playing chess with people 2 and 3 grades ahead of her and beating off their socks when she was still in grammar school.
That's right. We did a story about the elementary school kids playing chess for the school magazine
Oh,
when I was working on it when I was a junior in high school. So that was kind of interesting.
yeah. When did you start working on the school magazine?
I think, well, the first 2 years I think I was in the drama department, and then the second 2 years I worked on the school magazine. And I did not tell the nun who was the drama coach that I was applying to work on the newspaper, because I thought, no use upsetting her until I have to. And she was very upset to read it on the assignments board outside
Oh, my gosh.
the newspaper office.
That's too bad.
Yes,
Well, she could certainly understand how you'd be reluctant or anxious about how she would react.
well, usually
And-
people who give you reason to feel that way don't think that you would be afraid of them reacting.
Oh, what was her name?
Sister Ancilla Marie,
And who was the,
Sister Marilyn, was
yeah,
my,
she became,
and she left the convent later and has done a lot of activist work. She's, I heard about her on NPR one night several years ago because they spoke to her about the schools in Newark. She was with the Poverty Law Center in Newark, I think, or some education group, community education group, legal group, that was trying to get equal funding for their schools from the state of New York. And later, I sent her some of the magazines that I was doing at VCU and a letter. And then I said, well, here I am, still doing a school magazine. And then later I called her and talked to her on the phone.
oh, that's good.
This was 2 or 3 years
Did
ago.
you
It was
say she
great.
was in Newark?
Yes.
Why was
Newark.
she couldn't get New York money from there?
Oh, no, it was New Jersey money.
Oh,
Well, it
okay.
just shows you I didn't have good geography teachers,
sorry,
just
I-
good English teachers.
Wasn't trying to catch you, I was just trying to.
Clarify it. Yes, that
Yeah.
could be.
And Penny Abbott's was one of your close associates
That's right.
at the Loretto magazine.
No, we went to different high schools. Penny and I went through elementary school at Loretto.
Oh,
And then she went to Notre Dame de Sion, to Sion for high school, and I went to Loretto still.
mm-hmm. This camera's getting me, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And that one is, of course, but
Yeah.
I don't want to miss out. my moment in the limelight.
That's true. That's true.
Your mother and I both were in amateur theatrics. And I meant to tell you about that Tea Toper Tavern. They